you've got a face beautiful enough to be worth $2,000?
Yeah, but you don't look like the one who will collect it. Couple steps back.
Shut the f*** up! Say Christ is Lord! Say Christ is Lord! Say it!
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Unpopular Opinion. Today, guys, I'm going to be ranking all 3 Man with No Name movies from worst to best. The Man with No Name series, also known as the Dollars Trilogy, features my favorite movie character of all time, the Man with No Name. I think he is the coolest movie character. I think he's the toughest, most manly guy to have ever graced the big screen with his presence. Now, the Dollars Trilogy is a spaghetti western trilogy directed by Sergio Leone, and I think it's absolutely responsible for catapulting Clint Eastwood into international stardom. It is arguably the most iconic character he's ever played, arguably, and one of his most beloved. So the Man with No Name is a mysterious gunslinger cowboy who, honestly, he's like the perfect anti-hero. He's a pretty greedy, selfish guy, but he's also really ruthless, and he's willing to bend the rules for his own selfish gain. But at the end of the day, he will find it in his heart to help those in need. And there are times where he shows some tender compassion, but for the most part, he's a mysterious man. We don't know anything about him. He just shows up, says a few words, kicks a bunch of ass, and then just leaves, and we're all in awe of his machismo. So like I said, Clint Eastwood played him expertly, and today we're going to be ranking the beloved trilogy from worst to best. So let's just get right into this. So coming in at number 3, we have the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Even when Judas hanged himself, there was a storm too.
So right here, guys, we got the good, the bad, and the ugly. In my opinion, I think the good, the bad, and the ugly has the coolest poster out of all the Man with No Name movies. Like, if you just look at the poster, it's so cool. It says, for 3 men, the Civil War wasn't hell, it was practice. That is super cool. It's got this epic Civil War battle sequence.
That could be cannon fire.
Cannon fire or storm, it's all the same to you.
Really awesome poster. Now, anyway, guys, when I say worst to best, I don't mean that this is a bad movie. Think of it like a totem pole. Something has to be on the bottom, and unfortunately, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly happens to be on the bottom.
I wish you luck.
So, the plot features 3 title characters. There's the good, the Man with No Name. The bad, Angel Eyes. And the ugly Tuco. So it's 1862 during the American Civil War, more specifically the New Mexico campaign, and $200,000 of Confederate gold has gone missing, and it's buried in a grave in a remote graveyard. And each of the title characters has a little piece of the information, but they not one of them knows the whole scope.
The money's on the other side of the river.
Oh? Where?
Amigo, I said the other side, and that's enough.
So they're all out for the gold. They're all trying to find the gold for themselves, but being that they don't know every piece of the puzzle.
I know the name of the cemetery now. And you know the name of the grave.
There are times where they have to work together. There are times where they need each other, but they don't trust each other.
There's 2 of us. Should make it easier than just one. You thought I'd trust you? $200,000 is a lot of money.
And every step of the way, they're looking for a way out or a way to betray them, and they're backstabbing each other.
What did he say about the money?
Buried in a grave.
Which grave?
And it leads to a final climactic showdown in the graveyard when they all make it to the graveyard and they're all fighting over the gold.
If you shoot me, you won't see a cent of that money. Why?
Now, there's a lot of things I like about this movie. The direction by Sergio Leone was pretty epic. The Civil War battle over the bridge and them blowing it up was super cool. And genuinely, some of the greatest quotes and moments in the series come from this movie. Not for naught, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, the theme song, it's basically the national anthem for the Wild West. Even if you haven't seen the movie, you've heard the music, and that is a guarantee. And undeniably, for most fans, I'm the exception to this, but most fans consider this to be the greatest of the series. And a lot of people consider it to be one of the greatest movies of all time. It is undoubtedly an immortal film. Now, the reason why it's not so high on the list for me, for one, is because it's more of an ensemble cast. And, you know, the Man with No Name's my favorite movie character. He has to share a lot of his screen time with a character who I really didn't like. I didn't like Tuco. A lot of people really quarrel with that, but I didn't like the character of Tuco. I hated the guy, and I hated the fact that the majority of the screen time was his. The majority of the focus of the movie was his. And I also really didn't like how he bested the Man with No Name pretty early in the movie. And then he pretty much gets away with it. And for a large chunk of the film, the Man with No Name is Tuco's hostage, and he comes out on the end, but it really wasn't that satisfying. I would have loved to have seen the Man with No Name like punch Tuco in the face or something, but I digress. I actually made a couple videos on The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, fully explaining my opinion on it and fully going deep into how I truly feel. I highly suggest you check those out. Those will be linked in the description below.
Therefore, according to the powers vested in us,
but overall, the movie could have used a little bit more action, but the battle scene was epic. The opening was really strong. And the ending finale was one of the greatest scenes of all time. But, you know, it would have been cooler to see the Man with No Name do more with his screen time. Or actually wear his iconic poncho more. He mostly wore a regular duster or a Confederate uniform.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the finale in the graveyard that he finally donned his poncho. But that ending showdown in the graveyard when he finally puts on the poncho and he lifts it up and he's all like, no, 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 not today. That was really cool. And I also love how he left Tuco to die.
You wouldn't play a joke on me like that.
It's no joke, it's a rope, Tuco. I want you to stand up there and put your head in that noose.
In the noose, but then he shot him. That was kind of cool, but it wasn't that satisfying because it would have been nice to see him like beat up Tuco or something. I digress. The movie was a solid film, pretty good. And well, it's kind of weird calling it a finale considering the fact that it is a prequel. It takes place like almost pretty much 10 years before the first movie. So when you see the Man with No Name riding off, you're like, wow, this is his final adventure, but not really because it's kind of his first adventure, chronologically speaking. Another thing about The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is the fact that it takes place during the Civil War. You see the characters interacting with the Civil War a lot, and it was pretty cool seeing the Man with No Name comfort those dying soldiers in their last moments. Or the moments where there's like somber humility or, oh, the humanity, the carnage, the destruction. That was a kind of cool aspect. But either way, the ending was pretty cool and there was a lot to really like about this movie. And undeniably, the film is immortal and therefore by extension, the Man with No Name is also immortal. So that is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Number 2 is For a Few Dollars More.
Who said I was joking?
I don't get that. If it's true,
Too bad you have to die.
That's right, guys. For a Few Dollars More is a pretty solid film with a pretty cool poster. You know, you got the Man with No Name. Pretty awesome stuff. I'm telling you, this movie is a solid film. So this movie is number 2, and it barely misses number 1 by the skin of its teeth. It is so close to being the best one.
You little
But I think it's a really great movie. It takes the concept of the Man with No Name and the character and puts it in a much bigger canvas. So in this movie, the Man with No Name is a bounty hunter, and he reluctantly has to team up with the Man in Black, Colonel Douglas Mortimer. And in this film, there's a really dangerous outlaw who just escaped from prison, and he gets the boys back together, and his outlaw bandit gang is so formidable. But the reward on them is super high, so the Man with No Name teams up with Mortimer and they have to take him out. The thing that's really great about this is the fact that it takes place in a lot of different locations. It doesn't just take place in one town. You see a large portion of the American West, and you also see the film spill out below the southern border. So the finale takes place in Mexico in a really desolate place, which was really cool. Not for naught, I happen to think that this movie has the most emotion, heart, and intensity more than any other film. It's true, The Man with No Name doesn't really reveal much of his background, and he's still doing his normal badass cowboy stuff, but the fact that Colonel Douglas Mortimer, he's not just doing this for the reward money on Indio, he's trying to get revenge on the guy because he violated his sister and it caused her to kill herself.
Leave Indio to me. All right.
And he's doing it for revenge. It's for vengeance. And the music in this was awesome, so stellar. The final showdown was epic, and I really love how The Man with No Name and Mortimer had really good chemistry. It was really cool. Yeah, the direction, the music, the gunplay was all super epic. That is why For a Few Dollars More is really spectacular. And I truly love the ending sentiment where finally Douglas Mortimer takes out Indio, and he's all like, well, that's more reward than any reward money. I finally avenged my sister. You can have the money. And The Man with No Name's kind of like, but what about our partnership? And he's like, maybe next time. And he just rides away, which was really cool.
What about a partnership? Maybe next time.
The intensity. It can't be overstated how intense this movie was. And number one, we have Fistful of Dollars.
I don't think it's nice you laughing.
You see that, guys? It says, this is the man with no name, and in his own way, he's perhaps the most dangerous man to have ever lived. Really epic poster. Look at the artwork on this poster. Super, super cool. So anyway, guys, Fistful of Dollars introduces us to the beloved nameless gunslinger Drifter, and in this movie, he wanders into a desolate town where it's below the southern border, so he's in Mexico, and it's ruled by two crime bosses, two crime lords. There's the Rojos and the Baxters. They're basically competing for domination over this small, desolate town, and the Man with No Name comes in, and in an attempt to make money and exploit both sides, he instigates a war between them, and he has them fight each other.
Come out!
And he's using them, he has them fight each other, and while he's distracting them, he's just riding the high road.
Looking for anything?
Hello?
And duping them. So I know this movie is kind of an unofficial remake of Yojimbo, but I do think the character of the Man with No Name was introduced excellent in this film. Like, he comes in, you don't know anything about him, but you know that this guy is super dangerous because he comes in, he kills some gangsters right off the bat, and he impresses the Rojos, and they're like, well, we gotta hire this guy. And then in the process, you realize, well, this guy's kind of a bad guy. He's pretty immoral. He's just taking money from these people. He's going around killing everybody.
This is all very, very touching.
You mean you don't admire peace?
It's not really easy to like something you know nothing about.
And then he's causing trouble. And throughout the whole film, while these two sides are fighting each other, you come to realize that actually everything that you're questioning about the Man with No Name, all the questions you have, they're answered, because what does he do? He saves a woman who's captive of the Rojos. He gives her all the money that he made and said, here, take this, you can go. I knew someone like you once and there was no one there to help.
Why do you do this for us?
Why? I knew someone like you once. There was no one there to help.
And that was a really cool scene. I really love the action in this movie. I love the plot. I like how dark this movie was, considering the fact that, you know, eventually the house comes crumbling down on the Man with No Name. He gets caught, and they beat him up, and they torture him, and they beat him mercilessly to the point where he's almost dead. And it's a really dire situation, but the fact that he doesn't talk and he doesn't reveal where he hid the woman or what he did so she can get away, it gives her a chance to escape. It just shows that this guy, though he is flawed and is greedy and ruthless, he does care about people. Not for naught, the part where the Rojos wipe out the Baxters was intense. Guys, there's a reason why spaghetti westerns were not really well received in the United States by critics. It's because they were dark, they were gritty, which, like the real Wild West, it's dark, it's gritty, and it's not always good guy, bad guy. Because in this movie, Clint Eastwood, he's not wearing the typical white hat, and the bad guy's not wearing the typical black hat. He's wearing a poncho and like a brown hat, which is a really unique look for a cowboy, but it just is awesome. His mannerisms make him so cool. And the ending showdown was epic. So like I was saying, they finally, in a really dark manner, kill the Baxters. They burn the house down and they just wipe them out. And the man with no name, you see him having to recover. He has to slowly recover from this beatdown. And from the lowest of lows, he comes back, goes to the town, saves the guy who was trying to help him. And in a really epic, unique Western showdown, basically he hides a metal steel plate as a shield over his vital organ. So when he's getting shot at, it's not gonna kill him. And that's like before he blows up some buildings behind him to create an epic entrance, and then he lifts the poncho and he reveals like, oh, I gotcha, bullet resistant metal. And then he has this quick draw duel. The intensity was super high, the music was epic, and I really love the ending. Like, you see he's in the town, he doesn't have his hat, and he finally, all right, well, the Rojos are done, the Baxters are done, the town is free from these criminals, I'm gonna go. And he goes into the bar and he comes back out and he's got his hat and he's like, well, I'm glad your government's gonna see that gold back, but with the Americans on one side and the Mexican government on the other, me in the middle.
You mean the Mexican government on one side? Maybe the Americans on the other side?
Not this time, too dangerous. So long. And he just walks away. The music plays and you're just like, wow, what a unique Western hero. What a unique Western movie.
So long.
Adios.
It just proves that spaghetti westerns are just awesome. I find it remarkable that European filmmakers have such a unique take on the American West, and they also have a really insightful take on the American West. This is an off-topic tangent, but one person asked in history class, what's with European filmmakers loving the American West? Why do they make movies about it? And I think my response would be like, I think their fascination with cowboys and the Wild West would be like an American's obsession or fascination with medieval times and knights and chivalry and armored warriors, because we don't have that. That's not a part of our history, but it's something that's not so far removed to be exotic. It's familiar enough for us to be like, ooh, kind of cool, I like that. So I think that's how that works out. It's kind of similar how cowboys were like the knights of the American history, and then knights were cowboys of European history from an American's perspective. I don't know. I digress. Either way, that is Fistful of Dollars. That is my favorite Man with No Name movie for a lot of great reasons. That shootout in the graveyard, the ending bullet-resistant steel shield was awesome. So that's why Fistful of Dollars is number one. Well, guys, that's all I have for you. That's my short, unscripted version of ranking the 3 Man with No Name movies from worst to best. Like I said, none of the movies are bad. In terms of worst to best, something has to be at the bottom. It's a totem pole, and they can't all be number one. And it feels weird considering that my favorite is the first one and then the second and the third. But like I said, the second one barely missed number one by the skin of its teeth. So that's all I have for you. Clint Eastwood's awesome. The Man with No Name is epic. The Wild West, USA, baby. Woo! I love it. Yeah, what a rush. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you disagree, comment below to let me know. If you agree, comment below to let me know. What's your favorite Clint Eastwood movie? Because I actually made a video about that not too long ago. That will be linked in the description below. How would you rank these movies? Who's your favorite movie character? Guys, everything I want to know, comment below in the comment section. Not for naught, check me out on Instagram. That will be linked in the description below. Give me a follow there. Remember to like this video and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next Unpopular Opinion.